Welcome to Archetypes of the East. Today we're looking at Hexagram 51, the Arousing Shock, Thunder. An omen of sudden, intense, unexpected upheaval, the arousing forecasts a shock or a sudden change. The I Ching points out that these sudden events bring renewal after their passing, so long as one remains composed. A literal shock to our systems or a significant change can be initially paralyzing or even terrifying. The initial jolting of fear and awe is then followed by relief, understanding, and even laughter once the impact has finally settled. This shock can lead to profound realizations or even awakenings. A crisis can be used to instigate necessary change. In times of immediacy, a decisive and appropriate response is the most important, as hesitation leads to misfortune. In times of chaos, giving or acting with generosity can instill hope in others and restore balance to those who are panicked and afraid. The principle of this hexagram is the strategy of the spiritual wake-up call. Hexagram 51 is the structure of thunder over thunder. This is the strategy of radical vitality. It teaches that peace, the cauldron of hexagram 50, can easily turn into stagnation or sleep. To prevent this, the cosmos provides a shock to clear the air and test the heart. This hexagram talks about the necessity of upheaval. In the I Ching, there is a crack of doom that makes the world tremble. However, the oracle says shock isn't necessarily destruction, it's alignment. If your life has become a house of cards, the thunder will knock it down. If your life is built on truth, the thunder will only wake you up. The goal is to reach the state where shock comes and you go, oh, and then laughing words, haha. The moment you realize danger was actually just a delivery to test whether or not that you are ready for life itself. There is a warning here against hysterical reaction. Most people lose their ladle, their center, during the crisis. The oracle suggests that if you can keep your sacred vessel, your inner calm, steady, while the earth shakes, the shock will pass through you without breaking you. You're being tested on your resilience. This hexagram requires the seeker to harness the jolt of the shocking event. In career, this is the market crash, or the sudden reorganization that forces you to innovate. In relationships, it's the sudden revelation that clears years of unspoken tension in a single afternoon. Don't run from the thunder. Use the energy of the storm to power your next move. The key or energy of this hexagram is electric, terrifying, and fresh. The atmosphere of hexagram 51 is high voltage and charged. It feels like the air right before a lightning strike, metallic, heavy, and silent, followed by a deafening roar that arouses all living things around it. This is about waking up to reality. The image of hexagram 51 states thunder over thunder, thunder repeated, the image of shock. In fear and trembling, the superior one sets their life in order and reflects upon it. The shock of events is meant to inspire awe, a recognition of power greater than one's ego. This isn't cowardly fear, it's about righteous respect. When the thunder rolls, the superior one doesn't look outward to blame the storm. He looks inward to see where his own structure is weak. He uses the shock as a diagnostic tool to examine himself and set his life in order. The judgment of hexagram 51 states, shock brings forth success. Shock arrives and one may shout in distress, but after that there will be calm and laughter. The shock spreads, terrifying others all around, but one does not forsake their inner calm, just as the priest does not lose composure, allowing the sacrificial spoon and chalice to fall. In the I Ching, the sacrificial spoon and chalice that is mentioned represent your most sacred duties. These are your character, your work, your connection to the divine. This is the strategy of radical stability. It teaches that the person who can maintain their spiritual grip on the situation while the ground liquefies beneath them is the one who inherits the success of the storm. For the superior who is prepared, the fear transitions to calm, and there may be even joy after the event. In the I Ching, the oh no is the gasp of the ego being startled. The laughter is the spirit realizing that the thunder has only cleared away the dead wood. The oracle says laughter is the final stage of mastery. When you can find the irony or the gifts within the crisis, the shock has no more power over you. The hexagram warns against emotional contagion. Shock spreads for 100 miles, it says in the original translation. But your duty is to your vessel. If you drop the ball, the chalice in this case, because you were looking at the lightning instead of your work, you failed the test of the shock. The shock is meant to make you heavy, so grounded in your inner world that the external noise cannot move your hands or make you shake. In career, this is being the calm voice in the boardroom during a market crash. Your stability becomes a brand in itself. In relationships, it's the radical presence during a partner's thundering emotional release. By standing your ground, you don't just survive the storm, you ground it for everyone else. This hexagram calls us to be the calm in the chaos. It's the realization that crisis is an audition for leadership. This is the I Ching saying, the thunder has arrived to arouse the situation. Let everyone else shout in distress. You must keep your hands on the savor of your work. Use your fear as adrenaline to sharpen your focus. If you don't drop the spoon or the chalice, you will restore order once the thunderclap subsides. The storm was needed to break the stagnation. Stand your ground, be the stable object in the world of overwhelming noise. A changing line 1. Shock arrives suddenly, bringing immediate fear, but then subsides in laughter, bringing good fortune. This line is talking about a quick recovery. Line 1 is the beginning of the inner trigram of thunder. It's the first strike of the storm. This is the strategy of emotional resilience. It teaches that the success of the entire hexagram is decided in the first few seconds of the initial shock. The seeker experiences an initial shock, but these feelings immediately subside. In the I Ching, the "oh no" is the involuntary psychological response to the thunder, the racing heart, the gasp, and the fear. The laughing is an intellectual realization that follows the shock. The oracle says the shock was a false alarm. The good fortune comes because you didn't let the initial fear turn into permanent panic. You looked at the thunder that you saw and it was just noise, not destruction. This line is calling for us to respond to the situation responsibly, and there will be good fortune. This is a warning against overreacting to ghosts in the situation. If you run away in terror during the oh no phase, you miss the laughter and the rationale that comes afterwards. The oracle suggests that your luck is tied to your speed of recovery. The faster that you can move from shocked to rational, the better your outcome. In career, this is the sudden email or bad news that looks like a disaster at 9 a.m., but it's resolved by 10 a.m. In relationships, it's the sudden outburst that actually clears a misunderstanding. Breathe through the jolt. The laughter is already on its way. This is the line of an initial scare. It's the realization that startled is not the same as hurt. The I Ching says, the shock has arrived suddenly and you are fearful at first. But look closer. The outcome is not as bad as you expected. Don't flinch or resign. Stay responsible and stay present. The thunder has already subsided. Once you see the reality of the situation, you'll laugh at your own initial hesitancy. Your good fortune is secured because you didn't lose your head when the ground shook beneath your feet. A changing line 2. Shock arrives, danger from the event arises. There could be a loss of goods and resources. Do not try to climb up to confront the difficult heights to pursue what was lost. After a short time, what was lost will be returned or replaced. This line is talking about having the grace of having non-attachment to things. Line 2 is the central position of the inner trigram of thunder. The shock is no longer a false alarm. This time, the shock has teeth. This is the strategy of calculated abandonment. It teaches that in a crisis, your life and your character are more important than your goods, or in the original translation, your treasures. In the I Ching, the 9 hills that it talks about in the original translation represent the highest peaks of your own principles and safety. When the thunder causes a financial downturn or a loss of resources, your instinct is to chase the thief or fix the market. The oracle says, let the goods go. If you try to fight the storm to save your treasures, the storm will take you too. Your only job is to get to the high ground of the situation. It's interesting to note that in Chinese numerology, 7 represents the completion of a cycle. The oracle is giving you a guarantee of eventual restoration or recuperation. If you refuse to panic chase your losses, the natural cycle of the universe will bring a replacement or a restoration once the air is cleared. The misfortune is a temporary glitch, but panic here can be a permanent trap. In career, this is the lost deal or the stolen idea. Don't waste months of litigation or business. Focus on your recovery and your next high-quality project. In relationships, it's the loss of face during a conflict. Accept the circumstances with grace. Your treasures aren't gone, they're just out of sight for a cycle. This is the line of the sunk cost defense. It's the realization that safety is the only profit in a disaster. The I Ching says shock has arrived and it's cost you something, goods or resources. Do not pursue what was lost. If you try to confront the heights of the crisis to get your treasures back, you will fall. Instead, stay grounded, accept the financial downturn with grace, and focus on recovery and responsibility. Your misfortune will be short-lived. In a cycle, it will all return and your value will be restored eventually. Don't chase the wind, climb the hill to gain a better perspective. A changing line 3. Shock arrives bringing ruin. The shock causes one to run about in panic at first, but if one calms themselves and chooses to take action, this action remains free of blame. This line is talking about action being the antidote to paralysis. Line 3 is at the transition point of the inner trigram of thunder. It represents the moment when the noise is so loud that it threatens to shut down your brain. This is the strategy of mindful movement. It teaches that in a situation of total disarray, the worst thing you can do is stand still and do nothing. In the I Ching, this line is weak. It's a yen line in a strong position. It's prone to immediate confusion. The oracle says, forgive your first reaction. Being startled or feeling unsettled or scattered is a biological reality. Don't beat yourself up for it. The no blame comes from not being fearless, but from what you do after the initial gasp of shock. If one calms themselves and chooses to take action, this action remains free of blame. This is a warning against freezing. If the shock brings ruin or disarray, running about is better than giving up. The oracle suggests do not wait for a perfect plan. Even a frenetic or unorganized action is free of blame because it keeps your vitality moving. Motion creates its own path out of the ruins. In career, this is the pivot that you make when a project is canceled. You don't know the final destination, but you start moving towards a new lead immediately. In relationships, it's the uproar that forces an immediate messy conversation. Take the fear and focus into action. If you keep moving, the shock can't reach you. This is the fail-forward response. It's the realization that momentum is more important than perfection during a crisis. The I Ching says, shock has arrived and it's brought ruin and confusion. You're running about and feeling scattered. That's okay. Calm yourself just enough to choose any action, even if your effort is frenetic. It's free of blame because it keeps you from being paralyzed. Don't lose your cool, just focus on the adrenaline. Movement right now is your perfect medicine. A changing line 4. Shock comes and is mired in the muddiness of circumstance. Not all is lost, but others in one's immediate circle are in disarray, which brings misfortune. This line is talking about containment. Line 4 is the transition into the outer trigram of thunder. In a healthy state, the energy of thunder is electric and fast, but here it hits the mud of a messy situation. This is the strategy of slowed energy. It teaches that sometimes the shock isn't a call to action, but a call to care. There is a warning here about collateral chaos. While you might be calm, your immediate circle, which could be your work team, your family, or your partner, is panicking. Their disarray is the mud that is holding you back. The oracle suggests misfortune comes from ignoring the house. You cannot succeed in the world if your foundation is currently screaming in terror. In career, this is the project that is stalled because of office politics. Don't push the deadline. Focus on stabilizing your team's morale. In relationships, it's the family crisis that must take precedence over your personal ambition. Focus on taking care of your family or your friends or your work group for now. The obstacles are too thick for progress at this time. This is the line of having a good holding pattern. It's the realization that momentum is impossible when the environment is mired. The I Ching says, the shock has hit, but it's stuck in the muddied mess of circumstance. You are calm, but your surroundings are in chaos. Don't force a path. You'll only get stuck in the muddiness. Turn your attention inward. Take care of your immediate circle and your family, whatever that may be. Stabilize your foundations first. Misfortune comes if you try to race while your people or their surroundings are in disarray. Stay put and nourish the base first. A changing line 5. Shock arrives in waves with repeated danger. Taking action in moderation is without fault, as there are things to be done. Line 5 is the ruler's position in the outer trigram of thunder. Unlike the lower lines, the shock here is not a single strike, but a series of waves, one right after another. This is the strategy of persistent composure. It teaches that in a prolonged crisis, victory is simply not losing your center. Shocking events are rapidly escalating. Don't react to each and every single blow. In the I Ching, this is the hither and thither that's said in the original translation. The threat is constantly moving, unpredictable, and even repetitive. The oracle says, stop chasing the noise. If you try to react to every wave, you become dizzy and exhausted. The danger is real, but nothing at all is lost because the core of the situation, which is your character and the things to be done, remains untouched by the vibrations of the shock. Taking action in moderation is without fault. This is a warning against frantic overcorrection. When things are escalating all around you, the temptation is to do everything all at once. The oracle suggests do only what is necessary in the moment. By staying balanced, you become a fixed point around which the storm rotates. You become the eye of the storm. As long as you keep doing your diligent action, the shock cannot find a grip to pull you down. In career, this is the PR crisis or the market volatility that keeps shifting. Don't issue a new statement every hour. Stay composed and stick to the core tasks. In relationships, it's the emotional roller coaster of another person. Don't get on the ride. Be the ground they eventually land on. Stay in the center. The waves will break against you, but they won't break you. This is the line of Zen in the midst of uncertainty. It's the realization that movement is not progress. The I Ching says, shock is arriving in waves. It feels like repeated danger because it's going hither and thither. Stay calm and balanced. Don't react to every piece of news or every blow. There are things to be done. Focus on your diligent daily tasks. Because you are in the center of yourself, nothing is lost. Adapt as events unfold, but keep your action in moderation. The storm is consistently oscillating, but you must remain fixed within. A changing line 6. Shock arrives bringing ruin and anxiety. Going ahead with endeavors brings misfortune. If the shock has not arrived and touched one's own life yet, but has reached one's neighbor first, there is no blame in that. Get prepared. There will be gossip and meaningless talk on matters. This line is talking about being an aware witness. Line 6 is the exhausted end of the outer trigram of thunder. The energy has become ruinous and anxious. This is the strategy of informed withdrawal. It teaches that the highest form of intelligence is recognizing a disaster in your neighbor's house and realizing that your house could be next. In the I Ching, you are seeing the terrified gazing of those around you. The oracle says, don't wait for your turn to suffer whatever's happening. Seeing others fail or collapse in a specific situation isn't entertainment, it's a signal. You're being given a grace period to leave a situation before the overexposure or the shock consumes you as well. This is not a time for heroism. It's time for a strategic retreat. This is a warning against arrogance. If you think that you can remedy the problem that is currently destroying everyone else around you, you're inviting misfortune. The oracle suggests, accept your limits. There is no blame in stepping back when the environment becomes toxic or unstable. Surviving is more important than pressing on. There may be gossip or criticism regarding your choices, but it's inconsequential. In career, this is leaving a sinking company before the final collapse. You see the writing on the wall. People may call you disloyal, but they will be the ones without a job in a month. In relationships, it's withdrawing from a drama-filled social circle. Let them talk. Your good fortune is your safety when you separate from them. This is the line of the early exit. It's the realization that watching the omen is better than being in the omen. The I Ching says, shock is bringing ruin and anxiety to those around you. Going ahead with your plans right now is a misfortune. Use your neighbor's trouble as a warning to yourself. You have a window of opportunity to prepare or withdraw. This is not a time to be a hero. Recognize your limits and make a strategic retreat. There will be gossip and meaningless talk about your choices, but it doesn't matter. The only win is not being there when the thunder finally strikes. That concludes Hexagram 51. I hope that you liked the video if you found it helpful in understanding this hexagram. Subscribe to follow along, and next we're going to look at Hexagram 52, Keeping Still, the Mountain. See you then.